All right, Joellen, let's talk about boxwoods, right? Popular shrub. It seems like everybody has a boxwood shrub at home, doesn't it?
Yes, everybody's got
It
boxwoods.
seems like it.
This scientific name for the genus is Buxus.
Uh-huh.
Of course, the one thing that's great about boxwood is that they're evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
So they stay green all year long.
Right. That's good.
And of course, they have small leaves, so they're considered a medium to fine textured plant in the landscape.
Okay.
And they've been a staple for many years. Flowering, they do flower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't really see the flowers, but sometimes some of the varieties are fragrant, so you can smell them when they bloom. And it's usually March to April that you smell that.
Okay.
Planting it. How do you plant boxwood? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, tell us how now.
They like well-drained soil.
Well drained. Not
Well-drained.
wet feet.
No wet
Okay.
feet.
Well drained.
They prefer even soil moisture, but after they have been established, they will take some drying out, which when you think about it, think of old homes that have huge boxwoods in front of them, around the United States. They don't really have irrigation systems on those, but yet they are still there, and some of them are as old as the house.
Right. Okay.
So, they do well in the landscape.
Okay.
But we're going to keep that in mind when we talk in another minute.
Okay.
They like, when I say they like well-drained soil, now that means that they can get some diseases when they get too wet.
Sure.
So some diseases that are associated with them are root rot,
Sure.
foliar diseases, spots, cankers, blight, and the new one that's out there called boxwood blight.
Yeah.
Now, there's a way to get around boxwood blight. They're doing a lot of quarantine now, so hopefully everything that you find at a nursery has got a certificate with it saying it's boxwood blight free.
I hope so.
So that's the hope that is.
Because it has been found here in Shelby County.
It has been
Right.
found,
It has been
yes, but it's been brought in from other areas.
Right.
But if you already have boxwood, that's when I would be concerned about bringing new boxwood in, and I might want to quarantine them for a little while just to make sure. But if they have the certificate on hand, that's going to be the
good.
best way.
Okay.
They also have insect problems.
Well, it sounds like they have a lot of problems there.
They have mealybugs, they have scales, they have
Yes.
boxwood mite
Uh-huh.
and boxwood leaf miner. But those are very easily controlled if
They
you
are.
get them. And the most places that I have found the insect problems on them are places that are irrigated, just like you have the disease problems. So I have mine, but mine are not irrigated, and I don't
Neither
seem to
am I.
have any problem with mine.
have any problems.
So I just prefer that. But one thing you've got to remember is boxwood are shallow rooted. They are surface rooters. And so you really are not supposed to disturb them. So if you plant a boxwood, don't put it next to an annual bed that you're going to continually dig in.
Right, makes
because
sense.
then that's going to keep disturbing the root system. They don't like the root systems disturbed. So that goes back to what I was talking about before. The estates, they have the boxwoods out front. There's nothing else around them. They're not having their roots disturbed.
That makes sense.
So that's the one thing to remember about boxwood.
Okay. Shallow
Now,
rooted.
there's a couple of different types of boxwoods. There's one called Microphylla, and that's usually considered all of the Korean boxwoods, the little leaf boxwoods, and the Japanese boxwoods seem to come from that family
Okay.
and that genus and species. They also are more cold hardy than some of the others. They can go down to zone 4. And 6 and 7 is where it likes to live, but it'll even go to zone 9. So, I mean, it's got the widest range
Okay.
for boxwood for it to live in. And they are, of course, you're supposed to get 3 to 4 feet round, but, they'll get bigger than that.
Yeah.
But now the Boxwood the Sempervirens, this is the common boxwood. It is the one we most think of when we think of boxwood, and it can get 15 to 20 feet.
My goodness.
In fact,
It's big.
I remember being at Mount Vernon, and Washington's home and seeing these large, huge evergreen shrubs. I thought they were gorgeous. And when I went up to them, I'm like, these are boxwood. Oh my gosh, I have never seen one that tall. Wow. So yes, they do get that tall, and they are gorgeous, and they live very well. But then there's a lot of the dwarf boxwoods. They call English boxwoods, and they come from the Sempervirens line.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're all related, and that's the ones I have here. These are mine. They've been in the ground for 18 years.
Wow.
And they are still under 18 inches tall.
Okay.
So they're slow growing. The Sempervirens is a slow growing boxwood. And now this particular one here is a upright form. It grows in a slender column, which I've put in a container. So it does really well. You see how nice and green these are. And they don't have any disease or bug problems because I don't have irrigation, and I do water them during drought, but I don't, water them continually. So they don't have.
Look at Joellen. Look at that. These look nice.
Yeah, and see, this one's really
You're taking good care of your boxwood.
Tiny leafed boxwood
really
here. They do very well, and I've been very pleased with them. So I've never had a lot of problem with boxwood.
Yeah, these look good.
So I like the boxwood.
Now, let me ask you about pruning, because of course we know the practice. Most people like to shear them into meatballs and things like that. So what do you think about that?
Well, like I did with these. You see, I cut this at where another one of these branches. See, I would cut this again right here.
Which is the correct way to do that.
And I trim mine a lot around the holidays because I use them for decorations, or if I need a flower arrangement, and I'll cut some of these for the greenery in there.
Right.
That's the only time I usually prune them. Now, because of the boxwood blight, I was looking at my boxwood and I decided to trim them a little bit. And I said, all these nice, and I'm thinking this too, these are nice cuttings. What I would like to do is strip these, put some rooting powder on this, and stick it in some moist soil and leave it for a while, and it will root. So I have done that too. And if you have boxwood and you want to propagate them, that would be a way to do that. Boxwood, they have been around for centuries. And of course, when they've been around for centuries, then that means that humans have interacted with them.
Right.
So there is lots of folklore and superstitions associated with boxwood.
Oh, sure.
But it's not native to the United States.
Okay.
It's native to Europe, to Asia, and to northwestern Africa.
How about that? Okay.
So, interesting, yeah.
That is interesting.
But of course, since it's been around for so long, especially in Europe, there's a lot of folklores and things like that with the boxwood. One of them being now, there's a lot of countries in Europe that have a history of making spoons out of the boxwood wood.
How about that?
Which I thought was interesting. Spoons. Okay. Yes, of all things, spoons. And there is a tradition for Irish a long time ago used to plant boxwood at their doors, because that would keep the witches from entering their building, their house.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
It is.
And of course, boxwood has also been associated with eternal life. So from eternal life to keeping witches out, it's just,
I can get with the eternal life. The witches?
Well, it's very interesting.
How about that? It's good stuff, Joellen. We appreciate that. We need to come out to your place and see these.
It's beautiful.
These look beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please click the subscribe button below.